Hi everybody, I'm Spike Brave, and I'm here today to give you a look at the Frozen City and the Frozen City night maps in Mechwarrior Online. If you've played the game a little bit, you might recognize this as the Frozen City night map. The only thing that's different about the Frozen City regular map is that there's a blizzard. You can't see anything. In that case, what I'd recommend if you're playing that map is to press your H key like so, and that will give you infrared view of the battlefield and cut through that blizzard for you. Something I do want to make players aware of is that it is extremely difficult to see the smoke from an artillery strike or an airstrike when in this vision mode. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch back to regular, and I'm going to air or artillery strike that building directly in front of me. So we'll launch the strike.
Artillery strike activated.
You can see the red smoke, and if I switch over, you can kind of sort of see it if you're really staring and looking for the motion there, but it's really hard, so keep that in mind. If you're in this vision mode, you can still see the smoke, but it is very, very hard to see. I see a lot of newer players and actually experienced players complaining about how they didn't see the smoke, the game's broken, artillery strikes are overpowered, all that different kind of stuff. But the fact of the matter is, when you're in these alternate vision modes, either the heat vision like so, and I'll take that off, or night vision, not the best viewing mode for this map because there's enough light, but that smoke gets really, really hard to see in these alternate vision modes. So keep that in mind as you're playing these maps that have the alternate vision modes that are extremely useful to be in those modes. That smoke gets really hard to see. So that's the first thing I did want to talk about in this video that can actually be very important on the Frozen City map with the blizzard going on. I have good success with lights dropping artillery strikes in the middle of an enemy formation and no one moves because they don't notice that smoke. So that's something you can really use to your advantage on this map, is that smoke's hard to see. I also want to talk a little bit about, first start showing you around the map and what's available for good hiding spots or names that players use. That's been my inspiration in creating these videos. A lot of players I don't understand where I'm supposed to go because they're calling out a name. So before I get into that, though, I want to talk a little bit about the battle grid. You can see there on the bottom middle of my screen, it says I'm in E3 and there's an enemy mech in D3. It's a great way to communicate to your team where things are, what you're seeing, or where you're seeing enemies. So keep that in mind, and if you press B, it brings up the grid and you can see the whole thing, and this will share information. So if I had a friendly mech in C4 and he was looking at somebody in B3, I would see both him and the enemy mech in those locations on this pullout of the battle grid. So this is a good tool for communication. So if you need to get a real close look at where the battlefield is and maybe type in a quick note to your team, pull this guy up. So let's talk about what's important in this map in solo play. Now, first of all, when you start out, somewhere around here, I think he's right here, is either a base or a capture point. If you're playing assault mode, this will be one of the bases that you should either defend or attack if it's yours or not. And then if it's conquest, there'll be a capture point right here. So there's that one. Since we're over in this area, if you are playing conquest and you're getting really close to winning on points but you're the last guy left, this area isn't really used a lot in solo play. A lot of people go down in here, but there's a lot of little nooks and crannies and such that if you're close to winning on points and you're worried that the other four guys, the last light mech, they're going to kill you before you can get those last few points, this is actually a good spot to hide. So keep that in mind. Anywhere back here, there's lots of little hidey holes, so good place to come for some cover if you're looking to win on a conquest match and you just need a few more points and you're worried about getting killed. So we'll come out here, and the big feature of this map that a lot of players talk about is the saddle. And what they mean by the saddle is in the center of the map here, there's this big ridge. So you'll hear that too. They're at the ridge, they're at the dropship, and that's this right here. This is a broken dropship. And a little bit of cover in here too if you need it. If you're running around, you can hide in here and get some cover. But the saddle is a special part of this ridge. And I am having trouble steering. Sorry about that, guys. So the saddle, though, that is this part of the ridge. There's this little bowl right up here against the mountain. And what will happen people will push from either side, so they'll be coming from this way or the way I just came from, and they'll come down in here because it provides some good cover. It's easy to poke out and shoot at people. So if you hear they're in the saddle, and occasionally I hear this called the crow's nest too. But this is where they're at. They're right here. Good place to start a push, get some cover, pop out a few times, make them go to cover. This can get real ugly if your team stalls in here. There is not a lot of room, and if you get a bunch of mechs milling around in here, you're just begging for an artillery strike or to get pushed into and get slaughtered. So here's your ridge and your crow's nest slash saddle. And this ridge empties out into a little bit of a valley here. And a lot of times you'll get some fighting in here. There's a capture point that'll be right here, kind of where this catapult is standing. So sometimes there'll be some fighting in this area over that capture point, or if both teams are pushing, they tend to hit each other right about here. There's the whole map is kind of a plateau, and if I get up here, I can look over here. There's nothing real spectacular out here. It's just kind of a flat open area. Good place if you're doing some flanking to come around real quick, but I wouldn't recommend hanging out in here. It is completely flat and open and there's no cover. I've seen a lot of teams try to push all the way around and come up through here, and they'll get caught in this area, and it's just a bloodbath because no cover. So there's those couple areas, and what you'll see a lot is the team that starts over here will push down through here into this area. This is a nice spot to do some fighting. There's lots of buildings, some real good cover to hide behind. There's a little hill. This is a good spot to do some fighting, and you will see a lot of fighting in this area. What's also important is if we come over here and look down, this is where the theta capture point is. This leads to a lot of discussion, lively discussion in solo games. A lot of people want to come down here and take this. I think it's a bad idea. 90% of the matches I'm in, when a team runs down here to take this capture point, they lose. Either what happens is the enemy team gets up here on these ridges and shoots them apart because this is really, really, really open in here. But you can come over here and get some cover, but this is a pretty open area, so it's bad that in that aspect. But also what's bad is this capture point is off in the corner, and now you're cut off from the other capture points. You can't. It's really hard to get back up if the other team is dug in up here. So if you do get a good spot where you got some cover and you have a good defense going on and they can't kill you, you're going to lose on cap because they'll just go capture all the other 4 points and beat you rather quickly on cap. So keep that in mind. I'm not a big fan of going down here. Some people think it's a great idea, but I guess since it's my video, I'm going to tell you no. But no, just teasing. It can work out sometimes, but I think it's a bad idea just because it's so cut off and so open down there. So, as I was saying though, this is where a lot of fighting does break out because the teams will try to push into each other and they'll get in here. It's just a few buildings and this little rise here. Nothing real special, and they won't be not a special name for it. You'll just hear they're in B4. It usually means they're around here. And then if we come up just a little bit more, we'll come over here, and right around here, hard to tell without the actual point here. I believe the other capture point's here. Pretty sure it's here. Yeah, it's here. So this would be another capture point, and a lot of times the team that starts out where that awesome is, that's another starting point, will come in this area to defend if the other team is pushed into B4 really quickly. They'll come in this area and defend, and there's lots of buildings and hidey holes, so there's some good cover here. This is a good place to fight. So you'll see a lot of action in this on this beeline completely during a match. This is where most of the fighting will take place. So there's our ridge again, and there's the saddle. And then we'll show you where the last capture point is. You'll occasionally get some fighting in this part of the beeline as well, simply because there's another base here, and if it's towards the end of the match and there's a couple mechs hiding at base trying to use the turrets to give them some extra firepower, we might get a fight in this area, and it's pretty much like everything else. We've got some buildings and some hills to hide behind, and then the other base will be right here. So this will be a base in assault, and then the final capture point if you're playing Conquest. And then what I'll do is I'll run down here. If you want to, if you're a light and you want to try to take Theta real quick, I wouldn't recommend the whole team going there, as I said earlier, but if you're a light, you can run down this little gorge here, and it empties out eventually. I'm not going to go all the way down. But there, now you can kind of see that way down there at the end, that's where Theta would be. So this is a good spot to actually, if you're fighting up here or wanting to get to Theta, there is some good cover, and there's a way up here. And I'll go down just a little bit more because there's another way up about halfway through the gorge. And right there. Here's another way up. So you can drop down here, get some cover, maybe get away from somebody that's chasing you around up here or chasing you down here, come up, and then you'll pop back out onto that area in the beeline that I said a lot of fighting occurs on, and then you can re-engage or meet up with your team or whatever you need to do there. So that's the big area to fight, and then the big area to be sneaky at is there's a tunnel. And I will show you where that is. He's right over here. He runs through this mountain. And sometimes in Assault or Conquest, people use this tunnel to access the starting point quickly. It does provide good cover from LRMs and such, so one point is right here where you can go in. So I'll go into the tunnel or cave, is what you'll hear. So if someone's using this to maneuver, you'll hear they're in the tunnel or they're in the cave. So we can run through here, and this empties out in 2 spots. So if you come around here, first there's a spot in the middle where it empties out, and it's a little bit hard to see sometimes, especially if you're moving fast. But right here we have a way out of the tunnel, and this empties out right by the ridge, right by the saddle. So if I come out right here, I'm at the saddle. So sometimes when you get a push from over here, they'll come out of the saddle or come out of the tunnel by the saddle here, drop down, and because this is a good spot to set up a defense, they'll push into the enemy team from here. So that's one spot the tunnel comes out at, and we'll go back in there. And then the other place it comes out is right here. This little ridge that overlooks the one base where we started. So that's one thing that some players are actually not aware of, because you kind of have to come out of your way. There's not a lot of fighting that goes on here unless one team's pushing and the other team's trying to guard the exit or entrance. A lot of people don't know this is here when they first start out. So here's your tunnel, your cave. So if you hear they're coming cave, that's where they are. And then for a recap on our other real big area that people talk about and call by a name, is we've got the saddle and the ridge. So here's our ridge with the dropship on it. And then right down here, that's the saddle. So keep that in mind, saddle and ridge. That's another one you'll hear. And then one that may be important, I don't hear it called by name very often, but a lot of players do like to use it, is by this capture point. This ridge is a nice place to snipe from if you've got PPCs or a Gauss rifle. So if you come up here, you can run up here. And if the enemy's in this area, you get a pretty good look at all quarter of the battlefield. So you can do some good sniping, and then that has such a large rise on it that if you're smaller, you can hide in there pretty good. So that little point right there, you can see the path that goes up to him right there. A lot easier to maneuver around up here if you have jump jets, which my commando does not. But yep, here's a nice little spot to snipe from. You get some good cover from the other side, at least from here. The enemies in here, not so great. But if they're on the beeline and you want to fight them, you can sit at that ridge and pop down to cover. So this has been a look at the Frozen City and the Frozen City night map. I'm on the night map. The Frozen City map is exactly the same. You'll just be in a blizzard. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it's shown you some places you can use to your advantage and the names that are commonly used in solo play. If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel. I hope to see you on the battlefield, and have great luck when you're fighting.